Hello, people. How are you all doing? My name is David, and as you can tell by the title of the video, I have never been to school, and I wasn't homeschooled either. Now, the main point I want to make with this video is this. If you have any family members or friends, or just if you're aware of anyone who, they keep their kids out of school and they don't even bother to homeschool the kids, then you should do something about that. Even if it's just calling and reporting it, just, do something. Be a decent human being and report it, And, if they're not putting their kids in school, or if you know, well, basically, pretty much, if you notice anyone who's dealing with abuse or neglect, if you think you know someone who's doing it, or if you think you know someone who's having it done to them, just, do something. Report it, at least. Please, be a decent human being and just do something. And yeah, that's the main point I want to make with this video, is that there's just too much stupid shit going on around the world, and people not doing enough to make things better, I guess. I don't know. But another thing is, this isn't a video to bash my mom. I love my mom very much, and I miss her. She passed away a couple years ago, and life has been not very great without her. Like, she passed away 2 years ago, and one of my brothers passed away back in 2011, and it really sucks not having them around. But yeah, there's been a lot of good times and bad times with my mom, but this video's gonna focus on the negative stuff, because that's what this is about. I mean, she didn't put me in school, and it was a stupid decision by her. But yeah, but another thing about that is, she wasn't like a horrible person or anything, but she was kind of, I would say, a bit messed up in the head, a bit screwed in the head, and I kind of, most people, when they have to deal with that, they end up hating the person. But me, I try to be a bit more understanding of why someone is the way they are. And I don't know a whole lot of details about my mom's earlier life, but I think she dealt with a lot of shit that kind of just screwed her up. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things about her earlier life that I don't know. She probably put up with way more than I have any clue about. But some of the things that I know of is, I guess when she was a little kid, when she was a little kid, like her or a teenager, I don't know. But her and her aunt were riding their bikes, and her aunt got ran over by a car and drugged down the street or something, and she died. So my mom had to witness that, and I'm guessing I'm guessing that traumatized her pretty badly. And my mom's dad, I guess he was abusive toward her mom, and then he would beat her, I guess. And then my mom's uncles ended up beating the dad up, and he apparently took off and never came back or whatever. He left town or some shit. And yeah, I don't even know anything about my granddad, my mom's dad. I don't know his name. I don't know what he looks like, what he looked like. I'm sure he's probably dead by now. But yeah, and my mom, I think she was when she was growing up, I think she was in and out of group homes or something. So it sounds like her earlier life was a bit of a mess. And she also had to deal with her brother being like a devil worshiper. She would tell me, like when I was growing up, she would tell me about how he used to, like now he's kind of like really, really Christian, but like I guess back before I was born or whatever, back in the 80s or 70s or 80s or whatever, I guess he was like a devil worshiper, and she would tell me about how her brother used to, I guess, hang dead frogs around and shit like that. And I was always not so sure if I believed that, but I remember a few years ago it kind of got confirmed to me because she mentioned, I remember her mentioning once that like her brother either got tattooed or carved in his head, I think it was a tattoo of the numbers 666 on his forehead, but over the years it faded away or something. So I remember, like, I think it was my 22nd or 23rd birthday, my uncle, he took me to a casino, and when we were on our way there, I was like kind of like peeking over at him, and I would see, I was staring at his forehead, and I could see the numbers, the 666, like they are there if you focus. So I was like, holy shit, he really was a devil worshiper. And yeah, but so she had to deal with that, and she had to deal with all kinds of shit, and she had to deal with being with horrible guys. Like, my mom she had 5 kids. I am the youngest of 5. And I think when she was around 20 or something, she messed around with some guy, and I guess he ended up taking off, so she ended up getting with this other guy, and she found out she was pregnant, and so she wasn't sure if her first son, my oldest brother, was the guy that took off or the guy that she's with now, but who knows. We still don't know exactly for sure. But so she had the baby, and they gave him her current, like the guy she was with then, they gave my brother his last name. And so I guess like a year later or something, she had a second baby boy, my second oldest brother. And so after a little while, and the guy she was with, this guy, he had, I think, 3 daughters from a previous relationship, so yeah. And then after my mom had her second son, at some point she caught her husband, doing something he shouldn't have been doing, so that ended the relationship. And the guy, he tried to keep my second oldest brother, but my mom, she was like, fuck that, and like, I guess all kinds of like shit happened, and she apparently ended up setting his car on fire, and she ended up getting my brother back. So, and after all that was over, I guess, she ended up getting with another guy named Larry, and this guy she knew since like they were kids, because they were like neighbors, like their backyards were connected. But yeah, they knew each other since they were young. So now she was with this guy Larry, and with him she had a third son, which would be my third oldest brother, Daniel. And then like a year or 2 after that, she had a daughter, my sister, and then that was it for then. And then, so she had 4 kids at that point, and about 7 years go by, and then she had me, the youngest. So I'm the youngest. Like my older siblings, they're like, each of them were born like a year or so apart, and then after those 4 were born, then I was born like 7 years later. So there's that age gap between me and them, and you know, by the time I was like, what, 5 or whatever, they were in like high school. So yeah, it kind of sucked not having someone like close to my age when I was a little kid and growing up. But yeah. But yeah, my mom dealt with a lot of shit in her earlier life, and just being around horrible people, and I think a lot of that stuff she dealt with in her early years just kind of screwed her up in the head a bit, and so her kids ended up having to deal with some of that madness when growing up. And I don't even know about a lot of, like, my siblings. I know they went through a lot of shit, but there's a lot of details I don't know for sure. You know, their lives growing up were definitely different than mine, because like they went to school and they probably witnessed a lot of stuff and had to deal with horrible things that I'm sure fuck, I'm getting my words mixed up. But I'm sure they had to deal with a lot of stuff that I still don't even know about. But yeah, I just try to be understanding of why my mom was the way she was, but it doesn't excuse that she kept me out of school. It doesn't excuse the horrible decisions she made. And also another thing I want to make clear in this video is that I completely understand many other people have dealt with far worse than me in their lives. People have dealt with some serious neglect, all kinds of horrible abuse, and I understand that. I'm not trying to act like that stuff isn't important. That stuff is important, and I feel sorry for anyone who's had to deal with all that shit. And but for me, you know, in my case, the lack of schooling is a huge deal, because it's had a very bad, very negative impact on my life. No schooling and very little social interaction. It really fucks you up as you get older, trust me. Yeah. So anyways, again, my name is David. I was born in Phoenix, Arizona, here in Phoenix, Arizona. I grew up here, and I was born at Maryvale Hospital, which just closed like a little over a week ago on December 18th of this year, 2017. So yeah, I was born at that hospital, and I think both of my grandmothers passed away there. Yeah. Yeah, my mom had me, you know. We lived at a house on the street called Glen Rosa, which was just like a 15 or 20 minute walk from the hospital I was born at. So when my mom, like, I guess today I think it was nighttime when my mom had me, I'm not sure. But when she needed to go to the hospital to have me, a friend of hers named Kevin, I think he offered to push her there in the shopping cart. And I guess she declined, and she went ahead and walked to the hospital, I believe. And yeah, she had me, a little baby David. I was born on a Sunday. I don't really remember anything from the first 5 years of my life. I guess there are people who can remember being as young as like 2 years old or something. But me, no, it's like my consciousness, or whatever the fuck the word is, popped into existence when I was like 5 years old. Because that's as far back as I can remember as being 5 years old. And I'm not good with details. I'm really not. So from 5 to 10, you know, a lot of shit happened, but I just suck at, you know, remembering like things in good detail. But anyway, I was a little like spoiled 5-year-old boy, and you know, I get when I say I was neglected, you know, I was neglected, but I was spoiled. I was a spoiled kid who got, like, you know, junk food and got to watch TV and all this shit. But I was neglected because people weren't giving me the type of attention I needed and weren't getting me in school. But anyway, yeah, let's go back to it. I was a little 5-year-old, just playing around with my toys and all that shit, and, you know, being a cool little guy. And then I think around like age 7, I believe it was, my mom, she was going to apparently try to get me into a school, and I think, I'm not sure what the damn trying to find it on my laptop. But my laptop's being stupid right now. But I think, like, she told me she was going to try and get me into this school. I believe it was called John F. Long Elementary School or something. I might be thinking of a different school, I'm not sure, but it was a school like close to where my grandma lived. So she wanted me to, my mom apparently wanted me to go there. But then after a little while she told me that the school told her there was a waiting list for it. So, and over the last few years, when I've told people about how I didn't go to school as a kid and I mentioned the waiting list for the school, people usually tell me like schools don't have waiting lists. So I'm not sure what to say about that, because I don't know. So I don't know now if she was telling me the truth or not. But anyways, after that, she didn't even try to get me into any other schools that I know of. And so I just played at home, watching TV, playing video games, eating junk food, and all that shit, drinking soda, and yeah. I also forgot to mention that my mom, like we were on Section 8, and my mom would get disability and all that stuff. And my dad, Larry, he like throughout my childhood, almost every time I was around Larry, he was drunk. You know, he'd have like a fucking 40 ounce, and you'd smell the beer on his breath, or you'd smell it just like be like fucking sitting next to him. He just smelled like beer. So he was always like drunk. When he wasn't working, he'd be at home drunk. So yeah. And my mom, she'd be dealing with my older siblings, and there was always like some fucking chaotic shit going on. My siblings, you know, they were like teenagers when I was a little kid, so they all just kind of seemed to want to be away from home as much as they could. You know, they didn't like being there, it seemed like. But, I just burped. But yeah, it was always like chaos. Because my oldest brother, he was cool and a good, well-behaved dude, I think. Then my second oldest brother, he was cool too, kind of a metalhead. And yeah. And my third oldest brother, Daniel, he was seen as like the troublemaker. I guess since he was 12, I guess he was out like, you know, smoking and drinking and just hanging out with other kids around the neighborhood, and I think probably having sex too with girls around the neighborhood. So he was doing a lot of stuff when he was young. And he'd be getting into trouble a lot and shit. So yeah. Then there was my sister, and she was cool too. She, you know, going to school, pretty well behaved, I think. And yeah, but all of them, there were definitely issues with all of them. I'm not going to really go into all of it because that would take forever, but you know, they had issues with my mom. My mom had issues with them. They all had issues at fucking school, and I don't know. My mom, she was probably just tired of dealing with what my siblings had to deal with at school, so she decided not to go through it with me. I guess. Who knows? I mean, I still don't have a clear answer as to why I wasn't put in school. Like a real clear understanding of it all. But yeah. But yeah, when I was like around like 7 or whatever, there was that whole trying to get me into school apparently, but there was a waiting list, and so blah blah blah. After that, nothing. And then her mom, my grandma, ended up passing away, I think, around that time, maybe when I was like 8 or something. And my mom took that pretty hard. So, like, even all the way up to my mom's death 2 years ago, you know, she still really missed her mom. Like, it really was hard, very hard on her, losing her mom. And so, I don't know, man. Then my brother Daniel, yeah, like I said, he'd be getting into trouble and shit, and at one point, him and his friends fucking robbed an ice cream truck, and he brought stuff home that night when they robbed an ice cream truck, and he had a bunch of candy and ice cream, and I think he was trying to get me and my sister to help him hide it or something, but I guess, like, and police were everywhere. They were, like, all over the neighborhood that night. And, I guess they ended up, like, finding out that he was one of the ones who took part in the ice cream truck robbery. And, I think he ended up getting arrested for that, and he had to, go stay up, like, at a fucking mountain with, like, a mountain group home with other teenagers who got in trouble, Juvie Mountain or whatever the hell. I think he stayed up there like 6 months or something. And then after that was all, like, I don't know the exact timeline of all this stuff I'm telling you about, but you know, all this stuff I'm talking about right now mainly happened between the ages of me being like 5 years old and 10 years old. So yeah, my grandma passed away, and then my brother, I think he at some point robbed the ice cream truck and had to go up to the mountain. And then after his sentence there or whatever was done, he came back home. And then one of those years, 1998 maybe, or 1999, I'm not sure, probably 1998, it was Thanksgiving night. Well, it was, Thanksgiving was over. It was like Friday morning, like at fucking 1 a.m. probably. But yeah, Thanksgiving night, basically. And, my brother Daniel, he ended up getting shot in a drive-by. So, I was awake when my mom got a call about it. One of his friends called my mom and told her he got shot. My mom started freaking out, and I was in bed listening, and I was just like, I was crying and shit because, you know, I thought my brother was dead. And a bunch of his friends showed up to the house dressed in black, and she called like 2 taxi cabs for her and them to go to the hospital. I stayed home with my dad and and one of my other brothers. And you know, I guess my brother Daniel, he almost died from it, but you know, they were able to save him. But he had to deal with some permanent damage from being shot. But yeah, that was another hard thing for my mom to deal with, and for the whole family to deal with, really. And there's a bunch of other shit that happened. There's stuff that happened with my sister and my other 2 brothers, and you know, it's just, it would take forever talking about all that stuff. But yeah. After my brother got shot, you know, he had to heal up for months and months and months, and it was rough for him. And but yeah, I was a little throughout all that time, I was just a lazy little kid, kicking back, watching TV, playing video games, and I was spoiled, man. I didn't really have any responsibilities or chores, and yeah. And another thing I want to point out real quick before I continue is that, you know, you should be getting your children into school or whatever when they're like 4 or 5 years old, right? Right? But I guess, you know, my family didn't care to make sure I was one of those kids who were going to school when they were supposed to. And yeah. Throughout those early years from 5 to 10, I had a few friends, you know, but they were kids who like lived next door to us. You know, I remember One day, I was probably like 7 years old, I think. I was playing in the backyard, and we had a chain link fence. And the kid next door, he was playing with like a toy. It looked like a Transformers toy. And I just looked over. I didn't know what to say to him, so I just looked over and I was like, "Hey!" And he looked at me. He's like, and I was like, "Does that toy take batteries?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then we went from there, and we became friends. His name was Antonio, I believe. Yeah, Antonio. And he had a pretty sister. I think her name was Liliana. So yeah, Antonio and Liliana. Liliana was kind of friends with my sister, I think. I think Liliana was older too. Like I was like 7, and I think she was like 12 or something. And I thought she was so pretty. But after a while, their family moved away. So, and I kind of lost contact with them over the years. And then on the other side, the house on the other side of us, there was another family who moved in, and I became friends with a boy named Angel. Eventually, they moved away. And then there's that guy, Kevin, that I mentioned earlier. He was like a family friend of ours, so he'd come around sometimes, and he'd bring his son, and me and his son became friends, and his son's name was Saxon. But Kevin turned out being like a psychopath, so we eventually stopped talking to him, and I lost contact with Saxon. So I did have a few friends when I was a little kid, but they were mainly just like neighbors and shit like that, and I lost contact with all of them. And yeah, my dad, drunk and everything. Hang on. But yeah, my dad, a drunk, he'd be in and out of jail and shit like that, and eventually we moved, but my dad didn't come with us, so it was me. I was living with my mom and my sister, and we moved into a different house, and so throughout from age 10 onward, I never spent much time around my dad since then. But yeah, so we moved over toward around North Phoenix. Oh yeah, did I mention? Yeah, I mentioned I was born at Maryville Hospital, so we lived in the neighborhood of Maryville for the first 10 years of my life. And then when I was about 10 or 11, we moved over more toward North Phoenix, close to the Metro Center Mall. In fact, the house we moved to was around the corner from Cortez High School. Yeah. And then, I'm sure there's stuff, I think there's stuff I'm forgetting to mention. There's probably going to be a few things I forget to mention in this video. By the way, this is a video I've been wanting to make for like most of the year, but I don't know how to word everything, and I still don't. But I figure I just might as well just fucking do it. So I'm making the video right now. And anyway, now we're going to get to the part where I learned how to read and all that shit. Alright, so now I'm about 11 years old, and oh yeah, fuck! I guess, a year ago, hang on, let me get to this real quick. Like a year ago, I talked to my two oldest brothers, about some of this shit, about not being put in school, and they told me like, oh, well, we tried telling her to put you in school, and others tried telling her, and a few people reported her. So I guess there were a couple times when I was a little kid when people did report her for not putting me in school. But the thing is, my mom could pretty much talk her way out of anything. I've listened to her many times, like talk her way out of things, and she was really good at it. making up excuses and all this shit. So I was talking to my brothers last year about all the neglect I had to go through. You know, they were making excuses saying, oh, you know, we tried, blah, 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 and others reported. But still, man, I mean, how does an entire family, how do they not do something about it, you know? About me not being in school. You know, I honestly just feel like people did not give a shit about me, and I still feel that way. And my family just did not care. My mom, I feel like she did not care about me having like a good future. I feel that way about my whole family, actually, because, I mean, how do you not do anything about a kid that's not being educated and not having any social interaction? So, yeah. My mom could talk her way out of pretty much anything. And there was at one point when a city worker came out when I was probably like 9 or 10 years old. I don't know if he was like with City of Phoenix or if he worked for CPS. I think he worked for CPS, and his name was Alan. But I don't think he was there for me, for this specific case that he was working with us or whatever. I think he was there for my brother Daniel, but I'm not completely sure. But I know Alan did like bring up to her like me not being in school, and I believe she told him she was homeschooling me, or that she was going to homeschool me. And that's basically what she would tell people, is that she was going to homeschool me. And it just didn't happen. Yeah. Oh, I also forgot to mention, like, you know, how I just talked about a few minutes ago, how I had a few friends. You know, there was also this elderly couple who lived behind us named Art and Thelma, and they were awesome. They were just really sweet old couple, elderly couple, who were always nice to me and my sister. And, you know, eventually they moved away. You know, me and my sister would go over to their house and just visit them sometimes and talk with them. And I think we went to like a church event with them before and all that stuff. And they were just awesome. And I miss Art and Thelma, but they eventually moved away, and, you know, they passed away because they were like really up there in age. But yeah, they were cool. But anyway, let's get back to age 11. I'm 11 years old at the new house. And my mom watched QVC a lot. And I think they had a deal going with the fucking phonics game, Hooked on Phonics. And then, so she decided to order that for me. And let me tell you, by this point, I'm an 11-year-old boy who has no education, who doesn't really go anywhere. The only time I'd really go anywhere is if I'm going to the store with my mom and sister to get groceries, or go to Kmart or something, or to the mall to look for clothes or something. That was pretty much my social interaction, was just going to the store with them. The damn phone cut my video off. How dare you, phone? How dare you? But anyway, yeah, my mom, when I was 11, she was watching QVC. She saw they had a deal going with the Hooked on Phonics homeschool kit. And so she ordered it for me, and she told me she was going to, like, you know, homeschool me and shit. But at this point, again, I was an 11-year-old boy who, you know, I was very spoiled, didn't know how to read or write or anything. And I was very spoiled. I had my own TV, my own game consoles, and I ate junk food all the time. And, you know, I had a lot of soda, and just, oh, dude, my teeth were all fucked up. Like, they were fucked up. And yeah, so she ordered me Hooked on Phonics, and I was a brat. I was a horrible little kid, and I told her no. I was like, I'm not gonna do that. You know, I hated the idea of homeschooling for some reason. You know, I think I wanted to go to school, but at this point I was afraid to tell her. I was afraid to say something to her about it because I was also like I wanted to go to school, but I was afraid of going to school because I was fucking 11 years old, and most kids, I mean all kids really, start going to school when they're like 4 or 5. So yeah, I didn't know how to speak up for myself, and I was just afraid. And yeah, I said no. I said I'm not going to do that. And she's like, yeah, you are going to do it. But anyway, when the damn thing came in the mail or whatever, was delivered to us, she opened it, and I was so pissed off. Oh man. And it came with like stuff, came with like VHSs, and she made me, like, she told me, you're gonna watch this. So I was like, okay, whatever. So it was like a half-hour long VHS video that tells you how to sound out each letter, pretty much. So I just sat there and watched that. And then after the video was done, that was it. After that day, there was never really any attempt to homeschool me anymore. So that's my whole schooling experience right there. Is my whole homeschool experience right there is watching a half-hour long video when I was 11 years old, and that's it. So yeah, by this time I'm living with my mom and sister, and my dad wasn't around. Also, another thing I want to mention real quick is, like, my family, they didn't really teach me things when I was a kid. No one taught me that to brush my teeth every night. My mom had me brush my teeth when I would take a bath, and I'd take a bath maybe like 2 times a week maybe, and a lot of the times I didn't even brush my teeth before taking the bath. And another thing is, I was taking baths till I was like 11 years old. I didn't start having showers until we moved into that second. Look into my eyes. I didn't start having showers until we moved into that second house when I was 11. So goddamn, man, the first 10 years I was taking baths. How lame is that? But anyway. Yeah, my family members, they didn't really teach me any much when I was a little kid. My brother Daniel did teach me one very useful thing. He taught me how to tie my shoes when I was probably like, what, 8 or something. So he showed me how to tie my shoes, and I've always been grateful for that, because that's what I mean. It's like, not many people have taught me things, and he showed me how to tie my shoes. So that's something every time I think back about it, like, I'm just grateful that he took a few minutes to teach me. And like, my dad didn't really teach me anything. It's like, I remember one time I was at my grandma's apartment with my dad and mom, and we were in the pool. Me and my mom and dad were in the pool, and like, my dad, I guess he wanted me to learn how to swim or something. I'm probably like, what, 6 or 7 years old, and he's holding me up, and he just like, we're in the water, and he's like holding me up, and he kind of just lets me go under the water, and I start freaking out like crazy, and like, he pulls me back up. My mom's yelling at him, and then after that, there was no one ever tried to teach me how to swim again. I didn't even know what was gonna happen. I was used to being in the pool with the fucking floaties on my arms and shit, and no one, I don't think he told me that he was gonna that he was gonna try to teach me anything. He just did it, and I freaked out, and they pulled me back up, and that was it. He didn't try teaching me. And then I think like a couple years later, he tried teaching me to ride a bike once when we were in the backyard, because him and my mom, they wanted to go to the store, but they weren't going to leave me home, so they wanted me to learn how to ride a bike real quick. So he had me in the backyard, and he was kind of like pushing me on the bike, and and it was cool for a few minutes, but then he let me go because I was like going around in circles, I think. But then he let me go, and I was pedaling a little bit on my own, and it was cool. But then I started going toward the fence, the chain link fence, and I ended up going and slamming, hitting the fence, and kind of slamming my knee. I think it was my right knee on the fence. And I was crying, and yeah, and that was it for the day. And he didn't continue trying to teach me how to ride a bike that day or the next day or ever again. So yeah, that's and I can't remember anyone else in my family trying to really teach me to do anything after that. You know, they all just kind of just let me play and sit in my room and play video games and watch TV. It's like no one was giving me the attention that they should have been giving me. And yeah, people just didn't teach me things. But yeah, where was I? 11 years old, got hooked on phonics, and then after watching that half-hour video, I never bothered with it again, and my mom never bothered trying to get me to do it again. So I just went back to being my usual lazy self and playing my games. And yeah, I was a horrible kid, you know, selfish and just garbage. Really, I was a piece of garbage. I mean, I wasn't that horrible, but I was just lazy, and I wasn't really doing the chores I was supposed to be doing, and I would do anything to avoid like any responsibility, because by this point I was already kind of becoming afraid of everything. I was becoming afraid of even going outside, because like even back then when I was like 11 years old, when we'd had weeds growing out front in the yard, I'd have to go outside to pick them and throw them away. But when I would do that, like I felt like all my neighbors were watching me. It's the way I felt. So I would keep my head down, and I would just hate being out there. I felt so uncomfortable being outside, out front. I mean, I was fine being in the backyard because no one can see you, but I was so uncomfortable going out front. And yeah, living at this house as an 11-year-old, we had some. The people next door, there was a guy and his two sons, and I became friends with the two sons, Omar and Orlando. And I get into being like 12 years old, and at this point, there was a point when I was 12. By the way, another thing I want to mention: when I was 12 years old, that's when I started masturbating. Fun fact about me. But yeah, when I was 12, there was a point when we had these bikes in our backyard, and I was kind of just fucking around on one of the mountain bikes trying to pedal because I was bored. And Omar, he looked over the wall and he saw me. He was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, he could see that I didn't really know how to ride it, so he was like, "Hey, let me teach you." So he took me out front and let me get on his BMX bike, and he would like help me. And he'd tell me what to do and all this shit. And after probably like 10 minutes, I was riding his bike. So it was awesome. So I learned how to ride the bike. The neighbor kid taught me how to ride a bike when I was 12 years old. And my mom saw me riding it, and she was like, "Hey, do you want a bike?" And I was like, "Yeah." So she bought me a bike. It was a black bike. It was a Mongoose Gravity Games that I got from Toys R Us. And yeah, I freaking loved it, man. I would ride my bike for the next couple years. I would ride my bike down the street and just up and down the street for like an hour straight sometimes. But yeah, I very much enjoyed riding the bike. But anyway, let's get back to where I learned how to read. Okay, so when I was 12 years old, something came in the mail that was offering us like a free subscription to a magazine. So she told me to look at these magazine names and pick one out. Me, being a stupid little kid that doesn't really know anything, I was like, "Hey, let's get this one." And I think it was called like PC Gaming. And then my mom is like, I think that's for games on computers, computer games. We don't have a computer, so I was like, oh, okay. And so we picked out this other magazine called Electronic Gaming Monthly. And yeah. Eventually the first issue came, and I think it was actually I'm not sure, but I think it was issue 159 of Electronic Gaming Monthly, which had like a PlayStation 2 controller on the cover for some reason. I think it was talking about online play. So that was my first issue of EGM. And then there were two other issues that came, obviously, the following months. I think the next issue was about Halo 2. It had Halo 2 on the cover, and then the next issue had Grand Theft Auto Vice City on the cover. And after like one or two of these issues came, I'd be looking through it, and eventually I just got tired of just looking at the pictures, because again, like, I'm 12 years old and I don't know how to read. After watching that video the previous year, I didn't do anything with it. So, but when I was 12 and I got these like first 2 or 3 issues of this magazine, EGM, I got tired of just looking at the pictures. So I remembered back to watching that video that tells you how to sound out the letters, and I started looking at the letters and trying to sound each one out. And after probably a couple days, I was starting to read the magazine. And probably within a week, I think I probably I think after like a week, I must have gone through the first issue, I believe. And I'd read the next issues, and then the issues keep coming, and I just keep reading them. And I would read pretty much the entire magazine, almost all the way through from start to beginning. Even if it was talking about something that I wasn't very interested in, I just read through most of the magazine. And for years, that's all I read from age 12 to like from age 12 to like 18. That's all I really read was like Electronic Gaming Monthly. And it was awesome. I always loved reading that magazine. But yeah, that's how I learned how to read. And yeah. But when I got into those teen years, it really started to suck, because it was awesome, playing my video games. I loved my video games, Grand Theft Auto and all the other games I had, but I was also starting to feel lonely. I had the neighbor kids, Omar and Orlando. I'd hang out with them sometimes, but not all the time. And we didn't always get along. Hey. Shut up, Jimmy. Yeah. But yeah, me and them, we didn't always get along. And there was one point, like, let me backtrack a little bit. Like, when I was a little kid, probably like 7 or 8, I remember one time my mom actually asked me if I wanted to go to school. And for some reason, I was like, the thought of going to school kind of scared me. So I said no. But think about that. Like, think about an adult woman asking her like 7 or 8-year-old son if he wants to go to school. You shouldn't be asking a kid if they want to go to school. You should put them in one when they're like 4 or 5. Not wait till they're a little older and too scared to try new things. But yeah. When I was about 12 or 13, and there came a point when Omar actually asked, like me and him were the same age, and he ended up asking my mom if I could go, if she could put me in school. He was like, "Hey, like, can you put him in school?" And he even told her like he would walk with me to school, but she told him no. And I don't know why, but she told him no. And again, let me backtrack again. Like there's been a few times when I was growing up that my mom actually told me that an education didn't matter. Like it wasn't important to have. So yeah. Alright, back to Omar. He asked her if she could put me in school, and she told him no. And let me say, man, living around the corner from a high school really hurt me. It hurt my feelings because throughout my teen years, there would be times when, I would actually, go in the kitchen and dining room, and I would look out the window, and I would watch kids walking home from high school. And it bothered me so much because I wished so badly that I could be one of them, that I could be walking alongside them. But yeah, I didn't know how to speak up about it. I just didn't. So I was a teenager. I was a weird. Also, another thing is I was a pervert, man. Since I was a little boy, I was a damn pervert. I always looking at girls, and when I was a little boy, I'd be looking at girls, and when I got into being 10 and 11, we had cable, so we had fucking HBO and Cinemax, so I'd be watching those boring ass softcore porn shows they had on there, and oh man, I'd be jerking off all the time. I jerked off a lot, and I still do. I mean, these days, I'm pretty much addicted to porn, and yeah. But yeah, let's go back to when I was a teenager. It just really sucked because I didn't have a social life. I didn't go out much. I did go my two oldest brothers. They would take me to go see movies sometimes, or take me out to eat, which was awesome. And there was a few times in my teen years and early adult years when I went camping with some of them, or Daniel would take me up to a cabin with him and his girlfriend and her son, and that was cool. So I did get to do some cool stuff, go out and do cool stuff, but it's just I don't know. I'm just very bothered by the fact that, I did get to do some cool stuff, but not often. And I didn't have close friends other than those two idiots, that Omar and Orlando. Just the lack of social skills and the lack of education. There's a lot of times when I've cried about it too, I believe. I think I would cry about it because I just felt so lonely. I wish I had a girlfriend, and wish I could just go out. In my teen years, I didn't feel like I could walk outside and just go for a walk somewhere by myself. I didn't feel like I was allowed to do it. Yeah. Fuck. But yeah, it really sucked watching other kids just walk home from school, and I didn't get to be one of them. I missed out on, growing up, I missed out on a lot of life experiences that other people take for granted. It pisses me off. There's a lot of basic skills I still don't know. I still can't write with my hands. I still can't swim. I still don't know how to drive. yeah, so in my teen years, I was just a weird guy. I was a weird kid. I was a weird perverted kid with no life, and you know, I would just get lost in my video games. I'd be playing my video games all the time and eating candy and junk food and all that shit. And again, my teeth were fucked up. Back when I was probably like 10 or 11, they were messed up. Even back then, some of them were like cracked in half and shit. And there would be nights when I'd be crying myself to sleep. And for some reason, I wouldn't tell my mom about it because I was afraid of the thought of going to the dentist. I had never been to the dentist at that point, I don't think, but for some reason I was scared to speak up about it. But when I got to being 15 years old, I finally, like, my teeth were all just so screwed up, so I finally told my mom, and she started taking me to the dentist, and man, you had to do so much drilling, put fillings in, do root canals. Oh man, root canals suck. And put a few fake teeth in, crowns, stainless steel crowns, whatever they're called. And yeah, throughout the years from age 15 to 20, I'd be in and out of the dentist's office getting all this work done. But yeah, and there's still a lot of dental work I still need to have done, but I don't have insurance anymore. I ran out of insurance when I was 21, I guess, and so I haven't been back there. And now I have those fillings have, some of them have broken apart, and some of, like, up here there's one that's cracked in half, back here there's one that's cracked in half, and there's other pieces breaking off, so I need to go get fillings put in again someday, hopefully, before all my teeth just completely fall apart. And yeah, I still have a lot of dental work that still needs to be done, but it'll probably be a few more years, if ever, but we'll see. And I don't know why I started talking about my teeth, but you know, it's just another thing that you don't give your fucking kid, your little kid, like a bunch of junk food and soda and all this shit and just let them have what they want. You have to be responsible and make sure your kid is eating the right things and drinking the right things and brushing their teeth nightly, you know, every morning and every night. But no one was doing that. No one was making sure I was doing things I should have been doing when I was a kid. No one was making sure of this or that and all that other motherfucking shit. Again, it just pisses me the fuck off that my family just didn't pay attention. They didn't give me the fucking attention that they should have been giving me. And I know I probably sound like a fucking crybaby or something, but tell me this, like, do you know anyone in your life who grew up with no education? They've never been to school, they've never really been homeschooled, and they had very little social interaction while growing up. Do you know anyone like that? I don't. I haven't found anyone like that. I posted about it. I posted about this shit a few days ago on Whisper, and there's people who said they grew up like that too. But again, you know, I can't find videos on YouTube of others who grew up the way I did, and I don't think many people know someone like that. And so don't fucking judge me, is all I'm saying. You know, the reason why I'm making this video is that I deal with a lot of crap from people online, and they talk a lot of shit, and I'm just making this video to hopefully so they can have a better understanding of why I am the way I am. But yeah, I kind of lost track of where I was. I was talking about dental work and being a lonely teenager. But yeah, I was sad, man. I was really sad in my teen years at some points. I wanted friends so badly. I wanted sex so badly. and I just wasn't getting it. And I was I was shy around girls. Whenever I go to the mall or something with my family, and girls walk by, it's like I'd put my head down or just look the other direction. I wouldn't even attempt to talk to someone. And there's people who probably say, oh, like, oh, sex isn't like all that important and shit. But well, for me, it is. Like, it's something I really want and need. Like, I am addicted to porn. Ever since I was a little boy, I've been a little fucking pervert, man. And I want sex. And yeah. But anyway, my teen years, you know, there was good times and bad times, but I wasn't doing what I should have been doing. I wasn't in school. So I think there's something I'm forgetting to mention, but whatever. Now we reach the next chapter. So now we reach the next chapter of all of this, and that is when I started getting on the internet. So I turned 18. Well, I think it was like right before I turned 18. My mom decided to get me a flip phone. And so she got it for me, and she gave it to me, and it had internet access. So again, all those years, like from 12 to 18, I was mainly just reading EGM, but then I get this flip phone and I'm on the internet, and you know, I make a Facebook account, but there wasn't really anything to do on Facebook with a flip phone back then, but I also found this other chat site called MocoSpace, and before MocoSpace there was another one called Crush or Flush. I tried making an account on, but it wouldn't accept because it said something like, when I submitted my photo, it said something like I don't. It didn't think I was 18 or whatever, so it wouldn't let me make the account. But I found another chat site called MocoSpace, and I signed up on there, made an account on there, and MocoSpace became pretty much my life. It became my main source for communicating with people. To this day, I still get on there all the time. But yeah, MocoSpace became my place, my home. You know, I didn't live in the real world. I was always on my phone, always on Moco. And at first, like, I misspelled pretty much everything, and people would be pointing that out to me, so I was like, what the fuck? So I would go to Google. See, a lot of people now, when I tell them about not having an education, they're like, but you seem pretty intelligent, or you seem like you write or type very well, and the reason for all of that is because of Google. It was like, because when I would get on Moco at first, people were like, dude, what? Because I was misspelling all kinds of shit. So I would just, every time I would misspell something, I would go to Google and type it, and just keep doing it until I got the word right. And I did that so many fucking times over the years. And so that's pretty much how I've gotten decent at typing. Like, I still fuck up a lot, but I try to make it look good, at least, when I'm typing something down. And it's thanks to Google that I got to that point. And MocoSpace, man, I fucking love MocoSpace. Well, it was awesome years ago. Now it's not as awesome, but I've made so many good friends on MocoSpace over the years. My best friend in life is a girl named Brittany, and you know, we became friends on Moco like fucking 4 years ago or something like that. So, and to this day, me and her still chat with each other like almost daily. You know, I love that girl. I love you, Brittany. And yeah, she's my best friend. But yeah, I've met a lot of people on there, like not in person, but I've made a lot of friends with people in different states and countries on there over the years. I've had a lot of internet relationships with women on there. Fucking internet relationships are so lame, but yeah. It was amazing at first. I fucking loved Muckle Space. It made me enjoy life. And yeah, the friends were cool. It's like I'd go into the chat rooms and people enjoyed chatting with me. I'd have instant message conversations with people for hours and hours. I'd be talking to girls, and eventually we'd be texting and talking on the phone. And that was awesome, man. It made me feel like kind of normal. And Muckle Space also has forums, and that's where I usually kick back, is the forums. That's where I found a lot of friends. The fucking General Forum. And yeah, made a lot of good friends over there, on there over the years, but lost contact with some of them, and some of them just turned out being dickheads, and we stopped talking and such. But yeah, I've had a lot of crushes and known. Man, I've come across some awesome people on there, some really awesome ladies. You know, my first like real crush with someone from Muckle Space was a girl named Jasmine from Tucson, Arizona. Me and her, like, we talked a lot, and we talked on the phone and shit, but eventually we just kind of stopped talking so much. Because, you know, I was like 18 years old, and I didn't have a job or anything. I was afraid to walk outside, so I wasn't putting in any effort to go see her or anything like that. So eventually she got like a boyfriend, so blah blah blah. And then there were other girls I talked to. There was this other pretty girl that I met on there named Danielle. Pretty Mexican girl, about the same age as me. And she lived in Phoenix, and you know, she would want to actually like meet up and hang out sometimes, but I wouldn't do it because, you know, my mom didn't know that I was on chat sites or anything, and I wasn't the type to, you know, go out and do anything. So right now what I'm about to talk about right now is something that, you know, I think it's like, when I think about it, it still bothers me, because this pretty much explains how fucked up my life actually was. But anyway, so at this point, I'm 19 years old, and Danielle, she wanted to, like, she was out one night, and she wanted to come over and hang out. Like, she was hanging out with her friends or something, and after she was done with that, she wanted to come over and hang out with me, just to talk, you know. And I was like, nah. She was like, come on, just let me come over. I won't stay long. We'll just talk outside. I was like, oh, okay. I finally said okay. But like, my mom was sleeping, and my sister was sleeping, and my sister's daughter was sleeping. And we had this dog that was still kind of a puppy. And so Danielle came over, and she parked out front of the neighbor's house. So I went out there and talked to her, and I put the dog, the puppy, in the backyard when I went out front. And I snuck out the back door because our kitchen door is kind of noisy when you open it. But like, yeah, I went out there, and Danielle was out there, and, you know, we just started talking, and it was cool, man. Like, I don't know if I can really explain this clearly, but this was an amazing moment for me. At 19 years old, I was talking to a girl face to face. I was nervous as hell, and we were just out front joking around, and it just felt awesome, man. I felt happy in that moment. I felt like, like I liked her, but I don't know if she liked me. I know there was a point when I think she actually was. Like, I think if I tried, I could have gone with her. I believe I could have. But, yeah. But anyways, I was out there talking to her, and we were just joking around and shit. And then, I guess the dog ended up, like, scratching at the back door. And my sister could hear the dog. So she woke up and let the dog in. She didn't see me anywhere. She didn't see me in my room. So my sister goes into my mom's room, wakes her up, and she tells her, I don't know where David's at. The dog was outside, but I don't know where David is. And my mom gets up, and she looks around, and then she looks out front, and she sees me talking to this girl. And then I look over, like, she turns the kitchen light on, and I look over, and I see my mom standing at the window. She has, she pulls the curtains, all the blinds all the way up, and she's just standing there at the window staring at us, and I'm like, fuck. So I had to, tell Danielle, later, bye. And she went on her way, and so I only spent probably 10 minutes out there talking to her before my mom did that. And then I went inside, and I went in my room, and Jesus Christ, my mom gave me absolute hell about it. She started screaming at me. And it wasn't just because, they got woken up, but it was because she was telling me, what the fuck is wrong with you? She was telling me, you don't know that person. Why are you outside talking to someone you don't know? What the hell is wrong with you talking to strangers? And she, I don't know. She was screaming, and she was pissed. And again, just think about it. Just think about this. A 19-year-old, an adult, a 19-year-old, getting screamed at because he was outside talking to a girl. And so my mom just went completely nuts on me over that. And then, that was it. And then she went back to her room, and I cried that night. I was crying because it was such a good, it felt so good being out there and just being able to talk to a female. And then my mom completely ruined it. She completely just shattered everything for me at that night by screaming at me like that. And then it was years before I met Danielle again. I would still talk to Danielle, but every time she would ask to come over or something, I'd make an excuse for why I can't hang out. But yeah, it was probably 4, 5 years later. Yeah, 4 or 5 years later before I actually met Danielle again. There were a few times, when I was maybe 22 or 23, when, at this point, my mom was cool with me, just hanging out with people. So there was one time when I invited Danielle over to hang out, and she did. We just sat back and watched a show, and that was it. And then there were a couple more times when she came by and we talked outside, but that was it. But again, if my mom did not do that when I was 19, if she didn't scream at me, it's possible me and Danielle would have continued talking more and continued hanging out more, and maybe I could have had a relationship with her. But my mom ruined that. And it's like, a lot of this shit just goes back to that moment for me, because that night, it reminds me of my whole life, of how screwed up my whole life is. And yeah, me and Danielle, we're still friends to this day. You know, we message each other on Snapchat sometimes, but you know, she has her own life and all that shit. I liked her years ago. Like, years ago, I wanted to try to get with her, but it just didn't happen. But then, you know, over the years, I talked to a few other women on Moko, and I had a few other, like, relationships, and it was awesome. But then, you know what happens with those relationships? It was the same thing. It was me not putting any effort into trying to get my life together and get a job and go see them. So eventually, they would, you know, get a real boyfriend, and I'd be left with my fucking hands. Are you enjoying looking into my beautiful eyes? But yeah, man, my life fucking sucks, and you know, a lot of the times when I think about how shitty my life is, I always go back to the fact that my mom and no one else did anything about me, and they didn't put me in school. So, is it stupid for me to blame everything that's wrong in my life on that? Yeah, probably, but that's something that still bugs the fuck out of me so bad, so much. Like, I think about it so much, and it just gets on my nerves. Because, like, obviously, if she did put me in school when I was a kid, my life would be different. It definitely would be different. I would know different people and all that shit. Would my life be better or worse? Who knows? You know, my siblings, they all went to school, but they didn't have the best experiences, and, you know, their lives aren't that, you know, some of them, their lives aren't that great. Just like mine isn't that great. You know, they do what they can. They do what they need to do, but, like, you know, their lives aren't perfect. So I'm not acting like if she would have put me in school, then my life would be great or anything. But I think I would be a lot better off if she would have put me in school, because keeping me out of school, keeping me home all the time, it really fucked me up in a lot of ways. Because as I grew up into my teen years and early adult years, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of the world. I became afraid of, like, everything. To go outside in the daytime. Like, I can go outside at night and walk to the store and shit, not really be bothered, but going out in the daytime, it still feels like, you know, everyone's looking at me and judging me or some stupid shit like that. And it's just really hard. It's hard to, like, look at someone in the eye and talk to them, and yeah. But yeah, my teen years sucked. I mean, they were good in some ways, but they sucked without the social interaction I needed. But yeah, Moko Space was, it kept my mind busy, and late teen years or early adult years, you know, from like from age 18 to age 21. Well, from age 18 to like age 23, Moko Space was awesome. When I turned, what was it, 20? When I was 20 years old, my sister decided to move out, and her daughter. But the thing is, like, they just moved out. Like, they left one night without telling my mom, and it turned into such a horrible situation. Like, and I was caught in it because I lived with my mom, so I had to deal with her bullshit. Like, she completely lost her mind because, again, we were on Section 8 and all this shit, and like we were at this nice house, and I guess you need a certain amount of people on the lease in order to live there. So there was me, my mom, my sister, and my niece. But my sister and niece left, so my mom went fucking crazy, and it turned into this horrible situation where she was trying to get custody of my niece. And yeah, so my mom and my sister, they weren't talking anymore, and it was bad. And I had to deal with a lot of stuff. I had to deal with being screamed at, because like me, I see myself as a reasonable person. My mom, she was a very unreasonable person. Like, and that's an understatement, trust me. Like, she was a very hard person to deal with. You know, I feel bad for her because I feel like the world screwed her up. I feel like she was abused and neglected while growing up, and it just screwed her up in the head a bit, and so her kids had to deal with a lot of bullshit. And yeah. But yeah, my sister and niece moved out, and I had to deal with my mom's wrath because I would try talking some sense into her, because she talked so much shit about my sister at that point, and I would try being reasonable, and I would get screamed at for it, and I would have to hear my mom say so many horrible, horrible things, and there would be a lot of times when I would wish that I wasn't there, and I wish that I'd be left crying and shit. But yeah, I wasn't there all the time, because like after my sister moved out, you know, my mom started having me go to the store and all that shit to get her cigarettes and groceries and stuff, because that's what my sister usually did, was go grocery shopping. But since she was gone, it was up to me to do that now. And there were also times in my teen years, from like fucking 16 to 21, where I would go over to my brother Daniel's, my third oldest brother, Daniel. I would go over to his place, and he had a rough life, but you know, he got shot and everything, and he had to deal with a lot of shit when he was younger. But he finally found, I think in 2006, he finally found a good woman that he was with, and you know, they loved each other, and she had a son from a previous relationship, but my brother and her loved each other, and I would go over to their apartment sometimes and hang out with them, visit, and play games with the kid, and it was awesome. And yeah, I would spend time over with them when I could, every once in a while, and it was always great. But like around like 2010, I noticed like they started having, like my brother and his girlfriend started having some problems, and yeah, it got a bit ugly sometimes. And then we get to a point to where I'm 21 years old. And at this point, you know, my mom and my brother Daniel, there was a little period where they weren't getting along because I think she wanted him to sign his name on the lease that we were of the house, so that, you know, we could have someone on the lease so that we could stay there, but he didn't want to be on her lease. So she wouldn't talk to him for a little while because of that. And so my 21st birthday came, and my two oldest brothers took me out, and they asked me if I wanted to invite Daniel, and I went ahead and said no, because, you know, at the time him and my mom weren't getting along, so I went ahead and said just don't invite him. And so I just went out with my two oldest brothers. And then after that, like I think a week after that, Daniel came by, and him and my mom kind of made up. And then I would hang out with him a few more times. And you could kind of see that he wasn't doing too good. Like he looked a bit out of shape, and just he looked like he wasn't doing very well. And there was a time one time, like almost 2 months, I think it was like a month and a half after my 21st birthday, my mom needed me to go get papers from some place, DES or something, and I didn't know where it was, so I asked my brother if he could show me. He was like, yeah, so I rode my bike over to his place, and we rode our bikes together to the office that I needed to go to. Then after that, we rode our bikes over to this bar that he hangs out at, and we were there for a little bit. I think we were there for a little bit, or I was at that bar twice. One time we hung out there, and then the second time I think we just rode, I rode there with him, and then I went home, but I gave him a hug, and I think we told each other we loved each other. And then like two weeks later, he came by the house for some reason, but I didn't see him. Like, they came in, they went out back and said hi to my mom or something, and then they left. And then my brother was like, later, David, and I was like, later. And then I think it was a couple weeks later or something, my brother Daniel, he ended up passing away. And yeah, that really screwed up our lives to a whole new level. That just fucked our lives up. And yeah, it was hard. It was hard when when Daniel passed away. And I think the exact cause, I don't know what the death certificate said, but I think it was like related to alcoholism or something. But there was something going on that, and I think there was a few times when my mom told him to go get checked out by a doctor, but I guess he didn't do it. But yeah, I think it was something related to alcoholism. But he passed away one day, and his girlfriend came home, and she thought he was taking a nap. And then, she was cooking dinner, and she went in to wake him up and noticed that he wasn't breathing. So she freaked out, and her son freaked out. The son actually ended up punching the window and broke the glass. And then me and my mom, we had our phones turned off. Like, our phones both of us had our phones charging that night. So the police show up at our house and knock, and we thought they were there for a different reason. But when they told us about Daniel, like, my mom started screaming, and I was just in disbelief. And then, yeah, it was a horrible night. And my mom ended up yelling at me because her and my sister weren't getting along, and that just came, and that got brought up later in the night or something. And my mom even told me that, my sister wasn't allowed to be at my brother's funeral. And she kept telling us that even up to the day of the funeral. But thankfully, one of my older brothers, they picked my sister up, and they brought her and her daughter and husband to my brother Daniel's funeral, and she was there. So I was happy that she was there. So anyway, at this point, after the funeral, my mom and sister still weren't getting along, and then my mom she had an attitude toward my two older brothers. So we weren't talking to any of them. I was stuck living with my mom, and I was basically not allowed to talk to my older siblings, which was really rough because our brother just died, and I couldn't be around them. And there was even a point later in the year when she found out that I had my siblings, like my two older brothers, on my Facebook friend list, and she got pissed at me about that. A couple months after my brother Daniel passed away, I was in need of a job. Like, I had to get one. Because, I don't know, we were just struggling. So, Daniel's girlfriend, my mom was talking to her about it. She was trying to get me to get a job. So the girlfriend, she told us that her uncle was a mechanic and that she could ask him if I could go work with him. So she asked him, and she took me there, and I started working there at this small auto repair shop with her uncle and her uncle's boss, who was this dude from, I don't know, from Africa or something, I don't know, but the dude had a strong accent, and I couldn't understand half of the shit he said. It was really hard to understand him. And so I was working at this small auto repair shop, and I worked there for 2.5 months. I would get up, it would be like from Monday to Friday, get up at 7 a.m., leave, try to be at the auto repair place by 9 a.m. Then I'd get off at either 5 or 6, and sometimes I would have to go in on Saturday, and I hated it. I hated every single moment of being at that place. And at first they would just have me like clean up the shop and all that shit, sweep and all of that. And then they started having me like do oil changes and changing brakes and stuff like that. The small things, but they wanted me to learn all this other shit, and they wanted me to learn fast, and wanted me to learn how to drive and all of this and everything, but I had no interest in it. I had no interest in working on cars or anything, and I sucked. It's not that I was refusing to learn anything, it was just that I had a hard time learning things. Something I want to explain real quick is that I do have a really hard time learning like new things. I learn very slowly, and I think the reason for that is because when you put a kid in school, when you're teaching children things, at that age, it's easier for them to, I guess, absorb information and be able to absorb a lot of information and just learn all kinds of things. But me, I didn't do that when I was a kid. I spent most of my time in front of a TV when I was a kid. And I mean, you learn things from TV, but you're not learning useful things. No one's teaching. No one is there teaching you how to do this or that or this and that. So you're not really learning useful things. You're just, at least not me. But yeah. But yeah, it's hard for me to learn things now. So I wasn't really picking up a lot of the things they were trying to get me to do. And so after like 2.5 months, the guy let me go, because like business was slow at that time too. Like they weren't getting a whole lot of business. But when he called me into his office, I was like, "Are you firing me or something?" Well, I didn't say that, but the way he explained it was that there just hasn't been much business lately, so it's kind of useless. It makes no sense to keep me around. And then I told him, like, all right, well, when business picks back up, could I come back? And he said no. So I left, and I was it was probably one of the happiest days I had in a long time when I left that place that day, when he let me go. I was so happy to be done at that place. It was such a weight lifted off of my shoulders. And it wasn't because I hated working. It was because what I was doing was something that I had no interest in, and it's not something I was learning very well. So I had no problem getting up and going to it like daily. It's just I hated that place. And yeah. My mom was pissed, but yeah, oh well. And yeah, my brother passed away, and my brother passed away. Oh, God, what am I trying to say? My brother Daniel, he passed away, and then, a couple months later, I was working at the auto shop, and then after 2.5 months, I got let go. Then a few months after that, my mom wakes me up one day, and she tells me to turn on the TV to Channel 10, Fox 10 News. So I turn it on, and they're talking about this haunted house attraction that was opening, and my mom's like, "Look at that," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's cool." And she's like, "You should try to," because they were talking about this haunted house and that they were looking for actors. So she told me, "You should go try that." And I looked at her and I'm like, "What? I can't do that. I wouldn't be good at that." And then later in the day, she ended up, like, we got in an argument for some reason, and she got pissed. Like, she got fucking pissed at me, and she was screaming like crazy. And she told me, like, she basically screamed at me and to get out of the house, get the fuck out of the house. And she told me, "Do not come back here until you go to that haunted house and you apply for a job." And I was like, fuck, okay. So I left, and I gotta say, that's like probably, I'm very happy that she did that. It's like one of the greatest things she did for me was scream at me to go get this job. And I was pissed at the moment, but it turned out being like a great thing for me, because I went there, and there was all these other people, and I was nervous as fuck, but I got the job, and we did it. And so I worked at this haunted house attraction multiple times over the years, but it's just like, it's a part-time job. It's only open for like a month, or a little over a month, for fucking Halloween. So I worked there multiple years, and it was cool and all. And I made some friends. But the thing is, when I would go there, I'm in my 20s. I was in my 20s at this point, and when I would go there, I'd be backstage with the other actors, like, waiting for makeup and shit. And dude, I was so uncomfortable. Like, it didn't matter how many times I went there. Even after 3 years of working there, I would still show up, and I'd be like uncomfortable. Like, I wouldn't know how to walk up to people, to other actors, and talk to them. And I would just kind of stick to my own little corner by myself, while there's all these other people. There's like 50 to 70 people, and like, everyone has like their own little groups that they stick to, and I was just kind of sticking to myself. And I really hated that. I always hated going there and being by myself. Like, I loved the job itself. I loved scaring customers, and I was good at it. And sometimes the other actors would come up to me and they tell me, like, "You're fucking awesome, dude." And I did make a few friends, but it's like we didn't talk, like, carry on long conversations. Like, we did sometimes, but I just didn't I wasn't as close to people as I wish I could be. And, some of the people that I met there, like we ended up becoming friends, like having them on my Facebook, but we don't really keep in touch and message each other or anything. I do have some really good friends, but these are people that I've known, like my best friends are people that I've known over the years from like Moco Space and other sites. And, yeah. So, I don't know what I'm trying to get at right now. Basically, it's just, what I'm saying is the lack of education and social interaction, it fucked me up so bad that, and just spending all those years inside doing nothing, I guess you could say it stunted my growth in some ways. Like, I don't know, but it stunted me in multiple ways, like socially and all that. I'm getting tired. Like every single time I leave, even to this day, every time I go outside in the daytime, I feel like people are watching me. And like I don't have good posture, so I'm always, when I'm walking, I always feel like, I feel like I look stupid, so I'm always trying to adjust the way I'm standing when I'm walking or something, my stance or whatever. And I think I probably look like a fucking goofball when I do it. And it's just, I still feel very uncomfortable going out and doing anything. And currently I don't have a regular job. I really need one, but I'm afraid of like the world. I live with my oldest brother currently, and well, hang on, let me continue on with the other stuff. But yeah, I was let go from the auto shop, and then I started working out at Haunted House, and over the years I was pretty good at it, and have a few friends from it, but haven't really developed strong relationships with any of them, so it's clear that I still have no social skills. And over the next few years from that point, my mom had a very hard time dealing with my brother's death. And eventually my mom and my sister started talking to each other again, which was great. But they would be on and off again, because my mom would always find something to argue about with her. And it's hard to talk sense into my mom. It was really hard. So her and my sister would get mad at each other and blah, blah, blah. And like one week they'd be mad at each other, next week they'd be talking, and so on. But I started going over and hanging out at my sister's apartment and hanging out with her and my niece and my sister's husband, and my sister had a baby boy at this point. So I'd go over and visit them, and it was awesome. And they would come over and visit us too. But yeah, my mom had a hard time. She had a real hard time dealing with the loss of Daniel. And I had a hard time with it too. I would spend a lot of my time just playing video games. And, yeah. And, a couple of my mom's uncles ended up passing away, and I think it was 2012 when one of them passed away. He left money for multiple family members, and so my mom, she inherited like $45,000. But here's the thing, my mom, like, she clearly didn't handle having money very well, because she kind of just wasted it on things. It was cool at the time. It was cool having that money, but she bought me and her new beds and all this other stuff. She bought all kinds of stuff for my niece, and she bought my second oldest brother like a vehicle, and at the time, my mom started dating some guy. His name was David. Um, he was like in his 50s or something, and he was a mechanic. And she ended up buying him a car, but it wasn't meant to be like his. It was meant for me, her, and him. So he, like, it wasn't meant for just him. It was her car she bought, but it was meant for him to drive to work and shit and give us rides to like the store if we needed it and shit. But her and him ended up not working out, and he just flat out took off and he took the car, and that was it. So, you know, someday I would like to find him and destroy whatever car he has now. But anyway, yeah. Um, fuck. But yeah, my mom was. Here's the thing. Another thing about me is that I don't think I'm capable of making good decisions, because when I was about, I think when I was 23 or something, I don't know. But one of those, like the year or something that she inherited the money, or the following year, my uncle, her brother, offered to sell us a car he had. It was a nice car, and she was going to do it. She was going to buy it for him and let me have it from him and give it to me. So I could have had a nice car completely free for me, that I wouldn't have to pay for. My mom was going to pay for it. But guess what I said? I said no. Because at the time, what was going through my head was that if I get this car, if I learn how to drive and I get this car, I'm going to have to drive my mom around to a bunch of places. Like that's what was running through my head, was she was going to have me drive her around to a bunch of places, and it was probably going to annoy the fuck out of me. So I said no to the car, which is very fucking selfish for someone to do that. For someone to say no to a free car because they don't want to give their parent rides. I mean, it's fucked up. It shows how much of a horrible, selfish person I am. But yeah, I said no to the car, and that was it. You know, she bought me a lot of other stuff, like games and shit, but eventually that money ended up running out, like in like early 2015. And at that point, the fucking Section 8 or disability or whoever, they found out that she had this money that she inherited, and they started giving her a hard time. And they even took away our food stamps in like early 2015, and they told us that I had to find a job in order to be able to still receive food stamps or something, I don't know. But I had to start looking for a job in early 2015, and I was applying at a bunch of places, but I wasn't actually trying to get one. Like me, I avoid responsibility as much as possible. That's how I've always been. That's how I grew up being. You know, my mom, my family, they didn't do the responsible thing, like putting me in school when I was a little kid. So I grew up just trying to avoid anything and everything. I grew up being afraid of the world and not knowing how to interact with people. And then, yeah, we were having those issues in early 2015 because her inheritance money was running out, because over the last few years she had spent it on a lot of dumb things but she should have tried saving it up a bit, but she didn't. So it ran out, and we were having issues with food stamps and shit, and then she started getting sick. We had some people living with us at the time, so that got on her nerves. But And me, I was 25 years old, still living with my mom, and still just spending most of my time on Moco and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, and just ignoring what a shitty life I had. And my mom started getting sick around, I think it was like early April or late March, early April. She started feeling sick in her stomach, and as the weeks went on, it got worse and worse. And it got to the point to where she needed to start going to the hospital. And they were trying to figure out what was going on. It was like something, cirrhosis of the liver, but they didn't know exactly what was going on. They had to drain fluid from her, but that fluid would build back up, and like she was losing more and more strength, like as we got into May, and she was just getting like losing weight, losing strength, and she felt horrible, and we were guessing. It got to the point where it's like one time she had to spend like I think 3 or 4 nights in a row at the hospital, and she was a brat. Like, she hated being at the hospital, and she would always she wouldn't just stay there as much as she needed to. Like, they'd be doing their damn tests to be trying to figure out what's going on with her, but she didn't have the patience to wait around. So we get a ride home and then end up having to call an ambulance and come back like the next day or a few days later. And I'm very disappointed in my family because no one was like coming up to see her during this time when we were at the hospital or when we were at the house. And as we get into June, it gets even worse. Like, it was so bad. Like, she should have been in hospice at this point or something, but she was deciding to fight. She decided to go ahead and try and see if she could get through what was going on with her, and we still didn't know exactly what it was. We figured it was like some probably cancer or something, but we weren't sure. And she went through a lot of pain, and I'm just disappointed because none of my family members came over. Like, my sister had kind of an excuse not to come over. Like, she wanted to come over to the house to visit my mom, but like she was stuck at home with the kids, and they didn't have much money to like get a bus to come over or something. And plus, I don't know, but my 2 oldest brothers definitely didn't have an excuse not to come over. Like, they worked, but they had vehicles, so they could have come over and showed that they cared and, visit her. But she wasn't getting along with one of them at the time, my second oldest brother, and she even tried calling him once when we were at the hospital, and he just avoided talking to her. And so one day, I think it was June 19th. I think it was Friday, June 19th, 2015. She was scheduled to have an appointment at some specialist to try and see if we could find out more about what's going on with her. And so my oldest brother, he was going to give us a ride there. So he shows up. I think it's almost 8 o'clock in the morning, and I have to take her out to his car in a wheelchair and help her get in the car. And she could barely move on her own at this point. That's how bad her condition was. Like, I was not the right person to be watching over my mom at that point. Like, I will admit it. I I'm a piece of shit, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was there for my mom, but she needed better than me. She needed like a fucking a nurse to come over and take care of her or something. But I just wish she had, stayed in the hospital longer. But every time we were there, she hated being there, and we'd end up leaving. So that day came when my brother was giving us a ride to a specialist, but we got in a car accident. It was some old lady in the other car, and it was her fault. The accident was that lady's fault, and so we called an ambulance. My mom was in the back seat, and so we called an ambulance because we thought, she might have got hurt. So she was in pain, so ambulance took her to the hospital, and I was there with her, and I called my sister, let her know what happened. My mom started screaming in pain, and she was saying, like, you know what, I want to go home. She said, I don't want to be here at this fucking hospital. And I tried, and I was the only one at the hospital at this point, because it was like an hour after the accident, or 2 hours, and I was there with her, and I was trying to tell her, like, you try to calm down, and just wait. And she yelled at me. She was like, I need to get out of this fucking hospital. And she was like, I want to go. She said, I want to go home and be in my bed. She said, I just want to go and lay in my bed. And so she had me call my brother, and my oldest brother, and he drove my older brother's truck over to get us from the hospital and take us home. And he carried her from the truck into the house and laid her on her bed. And then I stayed there with her at the house that day, and I would check on her a few times, and I got frustrated with her at one point, and like, she kept calling me in her room, and I was like, what? Because I was frustrated because I wanted her to stay at the hospital that day, but she wanted to come home. And then she was like, I know you're sorry. She was like, I know you're frustrated or whatever. And she told me, she said, I'm sorry. And I was just like, I felt bad because, I didn't know what to do for her. And she was kind of just like wanting to take a nap, so she laid down and tried to get in a comfortable position, but couldn't find a comfortable position. And after a while, she finally did, I guess, and she was able to fall asleep a bit. And I would check on her a few times throughout the day, and at one point later in the night, I noticed her breathing was getting heavier, but nothing was really clicking in my head that something serious could be wrong. But I checked on her again a little bit later, and like, her breathing was really heavy. So I went up to her, and I noticed her eyes were like kind of rolled back, and they were going back and forth, and her breathing was really weird. So at that moment, like, it like clicked in my head that she's probably not going to be able to come back from this. So I got on the phone, I called 911, they came and got her. And I called my brother, and yeah. And we went up to the hospital, and they told us that after a little while of being there, they told us that she had very little brain activity. And I guess a blood vessel or something burst, and they said she wasn't going to be able to make it. So, but anyway, yeah, after we found out that she wasn't going to be able to make it, we started calling people, our family members and friends, and letting people know. And a few people came down to say goodbye to her. And my oldest brother, he went and he picked up my sister and her daughter and brought them to the hospital. And they called my second oldest brother to let him know, and he wouldn't get out of bed and come to the hospital because, and his excuse was that he didn't want to see her that way. He wanted to remember her as she was, which to me, that really pisses me the fuck off. To this day, I'm still pissed off about it. Like, I love my brother, I love my whole family, but it pisses me off that he would not get his ass out of bed and come to the hospital to see his mom one more time. Like, it's just, I don't know, man. It's pathetic. It's pathetic of him, but whatever. And I called my uncle, like, my mom's brother, to let him know, and he also didn't come down to the hospital, like, because I was calling them at, like, what, like, we were calling people really late in the morning. It was, like, 4, 5, like, I think I called an ambulance, like, I noticed that she was in bad condition in her bed, like, at 11 at night, or 12, so she gets to the hospital, like, at midnight, and so an hour or so later, we find out she's not going to make it. So all night into the morning hours, we're calling people, trying to get people to come down. Some people come down and said goodbye. And I was crying all morning long. And I think it was about sometime in the 11 o'clock hour, we had to go ahead and take her off the machine. And yeah. I was standing there on the left side of her, holding her hand, when her last breath left her body. And yeah, it was horrible. It was a horrible, horrible day. And it still bothers me because, you know, after my brother Daniel passed away, it bothered her so much, and she was always sad. And she would tell me that sometimes she would tell me that she would see Daniel. She would see him, like, his spirit or whatever, like, walk by the window or something. And she missed him so much. And sometimes she would tell me, and like in those final years, sometimes she would tell me, when we talk, she would tell me that she would have very nice dreams. Like, when she goes to bed, she has some very peaceful dreams, and in her dreams, like, we would all be there, but, like, we'd be younger, and everyone would be happy, and her mom would be there, and Daniel would be there in the dreams, and they were just really happy, good dreams. But then she would wake up back into this cruel world, and she was miserable. Like, this world did not treat my mom right. You know, I don't know exactly everything that happened in her early life, but it screwed her up in some ways, to the point that when she had kids, her kids had to deal with whatever madness that was passed on to her. And so, you know, some people probably hated her, and I think people abandoned her or whatever too easily over the years. Gave up on her too easy. But I was always there with her. I wasn't a great son, but, you know, I mean, I loved her. I love my mom very much. But she deserved better than me. But I also deserved better when I was a little kid. I deserved an education. I deserved a normal life. A life of all these normal, basic experiences that everyone else has. But I had to miss out on all of that. And I know this video was just supposed to be about that stuff, and I just kept on talking and brought all this other stuff into it, and I think now the video is going to be like an hour and a half or 2 hours long or whatever, but whatever. Yeah, she passed away, and I was still at the house we were living at, and it was a mess. Like, over the next, what, like 8 months, I was still at that house, but I didn't know how to deal with the bills or anything, or deal with the Section 8 or anything, so I just kind of just let things, I wasn't dealing with it, so I almost got kicked out of the house, me and my pets. And there was these people living there with me, Mike and Cindy, and we almost got kicked out because, like, I wasn't handling anything, so... but my brother, he came through, and my oldest brother, he came through and he helped, and he paid the bill, the rent, and some of the bills and shit, and he helped me a lot. But eventually, like, I had to move out of the house, so I moved out in February 2016, and I moved in with my oldest brother, me and my animals. And he's helped me a lot since then. And yeah. Yeah, since living with my brother, I should have from the very start started looking for a job. That's what a normal person would do. And my brother has almost kicked me out once already a year ago. And right now I'm at this point to where just a few weeks ago he talked to me. And he told me that I absolutely need to be moved out of his house by June 2018. So I'm at this point to where I have to try and get myself a job. And the reason why I don't have a regular job is just because I'm fucking stupid, man. I'm lazy, and I'm afraid of everything, and I don't know what to do. Like, when I was still at the other house and almost got kicked out, like, it wasn't click, like, there's something in my head, I guess, that just doesn't click when things are urgent. There's nothing in my head clicking telling me that, hey, this is an urgent, like, you need to be on your toes about this. You need to get shit done. There's nothing in my head doing that. Like, I have no motivation to do anything. And it's hard for me just to step out of the house and go do anything. Like, when I was working at the haunted house, you know, I would be able to go out and stuff, ride my bike there and miles back, but you know, I would put sunglasses on. Putting sunglasses on helps me feel a bit more comfortable outside in the daytime for some reason. So I would put sunglasses on, go do my thing, and come back. But again, even when I was there, I felt uncomfortable around the other actors, and it's just now I'm in my fucking, like, mid-20s, and I still have absolutely no social skills, and I have no useful skills. Like, there's a lot of basic things I still can't do, like, you know, write with my hand, or swim, or drive a car. You know, no one's taking the time to help me learn things. It's like people don't care. And yeah, I know I should ask people, but I always feel like I'm bugging people if I ask them for something. There's just a lot of things I don't know how to do, and I'm afraid to go out and apply at places, and having to go through an interview, and the lack of education might get in the way, and just, yeah. But I'm at, right now, you know, I have no choice. It's not clicking in my head yet that this is something I really need to get done right now, but I know it is something I have to do. because I have pets that I need to take care of, and I really don't want to be separated from them. So I have to try and figure out something. I have to get some type of job and try to figure out a place that I can move to by June, or else I'm completely fucked. 2018 is going to be a very interesting year, probably a very rough year for me, but I have to do something. I don't know how to do it though. Like, people probably watch this and think like, what the fuck? How is this such a big deal for him? I don't know how to explain it. You know, imagine being inside of a room for, let's say, the first 20 years of your life. You know, you don't go out much. Nothing is ever taught to you. And then, as soon as you hit 20 years old, someone grabs you and they put you outside, and they suddenly expect you to just do all this shit and function normally and know how to do this and that. I mean, that's not as extreme as my situation, but that's pretty much my situation in a way. I spent a lot of my time inside as a little boy and as a teenager. I did not get out much. I did not have many friends. I did not have much social interaction. I was not taught anything useful when I was a kid or when I was growing up. No one took the time to really teach me things. No one took the time to really show me that they gave a shit about me. And that bothers me. It really, really bothers me. And yeah. My dad's still out there somewhere. Like, I'll probably end up visiting him sometime, but I don't think me and him will really have much of a relationship. I just feel like people didn't care about me. I know my family cares about me and they love me, but it's weird, man. How do you let a kid in your family grow up without being in school or teaching them things? It's like, I don't know if they just didn't notice like how much it was fucking me up, or if they just didn't care. I just don't understand. There's a lot of things I still don't understand about it all. Like my mom, like was she just tired of dealing with what she had to go through with my siblings, so by the time it was my turn to go to school, she just didn't want to deal with it? Or did she keep me out of school, and like was her intention to keep me home into my teen years and adult years so that someone would be stuck having to live with her, so that she wouldn't be alone, so that she would still be able to receive whatever benefits or whatever? Or, because like when my sister moved out when I was 20, like, my mom did not handle that well at all. So, I don't know. When I got into my adult years, you know, and my mom started trying to push me out more when she had me go get the haunted house job. She did try getting me to go out more. And, you know, she even told me to invite whatever friends I have over. But at that point, it's like I was weird and didn't have a life. And I was too scared to go out and walk around and try to have a life at that point. And yeah, like I understand I'm responsible for myself now. And I understand, like, even back in my early 20s, I should have made better decisions. I should have said yes to the car. I should have been out and looking for a job and all of this shit and trying to live a life. But I was scared because for the first fucking 20 years of my life, I didn't get the attention that I should have got, and it fucked me up. And there's been a few times in my adult life where my mom ended up apologizing for a lot of things. Like, she told me, she's sorry about the way things turned out and shit. And there's been a lot of times when she was screaming at me and I'd be in my room crying like, oh man, I hate her, blah, blah, blah. But then there came that point to where I started thinking about it more and trying to think about how the type of life she had, and I tried to become more understanding of it. But yeah, there's been good times and there's been bad times with her. I regret a lot of things. I regret not being a better son to her. But again, if she would have made some better choices when I was a little boy, then I probably would have turned out to be a decent person. I mean, if you don't do your part as a parent, then you shouldn't be surprised when your kids turn out being garbage. But yeah, I regret a lot of things. I regret not telling her I love her more. She told me there'd be a lot of times when she'd say, I love you, and I just wouldn't say it back. Like, it just, for me, saying I love you just wasn't a normal thing. But now, when I think about it, it's like I feel so bad because I wish I could talk to her and I wish I could tell her I love her. Like, I believe in God and I believe there's more to come after this life, so I hope someday when I die, if I die, that I'll be able to see my mom and my brother and everyone else again. But, like, I just wish I was better and said I love you more to her when she was alive. I wish the world treated her better, and I wish everyone would have gave a shit about me when I was a kid, when I was a little kid. Yeah. But yeah, that's my life. That's my issue, is that that's how I grew up. And I don't know if this video is gonna help people be more understanding, or if they're just going to think of me as being a whiny little cunt. I really don't care, because you don't understand what goes on in my head. You don't understand the way that I see the world. I think my understanding of the world is a lot not better, but a lot different than other people, because I experienced it differently than them. And it bothers me. It bothers me so much, because so many people take so many things for granted. Things that experiences that I've missed out on. When people tell me about how many, partners they've had, and like, I'll be honest here, I lost my virginity when I was 25 years old. And it was like a few months after my mom passed away. Because, like, after my mom passed, for that first month or so, I was just sad and everything. But then I started just being weird and reckless, and I started posting on Craigslist a lot, trying to find women to fuck with. And yeah, that's how I lost my virginity, is people I found on Craigslist, I got into contact with one guy, and I met up with him and his wife in a parking lot, and you know, he actually, like, I'm straight, so there is no gay stuff going on. But like, he recorded his wife giving me a blowjob, and then a couple months later, I was looking on Craigslist again, and I found a guy, and he brought his girlfriend over, and we took turns fucking her, and it was at the house I was still at. So that's how I lost my virginity at age 25. Some dude brought his girlfriend over, and we took turns fucking her, and it was fun. It was kind of weird having another guy there, but I wasn't really shy about it. I had a good time. But yeah. And since then, I haven't had any pussy since then. So it's been a little over 2 years now since I had sex. And it sucks, man. It sucks having my life, because I still have a hard time dealing with everything. I get sad a lot. I get really horny a lot. I am fucking, like, addicted to porn. I can't seem to stop watching it. And I want, like, sex, but I can't really seem to get it. And I want a social life. I want friends. I want a job that I'm comfortable with, one that I can ride to on my bike, and one that I can just do, and I just want to have a decent life going, but I don't know how to get to that point. I'm scared of everything, and I just don't know what to do about it. But I have no choice but to do something. So soon, like, I'm looking for a job, and soon I hope I get hired. I hope I can get hired somewhere in January, and just hope that I have somewhere to live after June, and hope that I can hold a regular job and find some friends and eventually find a girlfriend. There's a few, like, there's women I know, some awesome, beautiful, lovely women who like me, and I like them, but, you know, they live far, and I'm stupid and don't have a social life or any money, so I don't put any effort into going seeing anyone, so I'm just stuck being the loser that I am here in Phoenix, Arizona. But it can't stay this way. Things are going to change soon, and I'm terrified. I don't know how I'm going to handle all of it. And yeah, I just wish I could go back in time and yell at my mom to put me in school. I understand that, like, you know, I have the internet at my hands, so I should be spending time learning things. But to be honest with you, I have no interest in education at this point. People tell me to get a GED. People tell me get a GED and try for college, community college or whatever. But I have no interest, because here's the thing. As I said earlier, I have a hard fucking time learning things. I have a short attention span. I could open a book and start reading something, right? And then when I'm done, I'll pretty much have forgotten what I just read, and I'll read it again, and I forget it again. I have a hard time absorbing information and keeping it there. It's like my brain or whatever, my mind is like a fucking galaxy or universe where there's all these little things, but they're spread out. Like, I know a lot of... I'm not stupid. Like, there's been times over the years where I've, like, schooled people on the internet, people who have gone to school and college. You know, some people say I seem like a very intelligent person, and I'm able to give good advice to people. Like, that's true. I have given good advice to people. But the thing is, about giving advice is just like, I can give good advice, but it's it's up to a person if they want to take that advice and go and run with it. People have given me good advice, but I don't really take the advice and go. I don't follow the advice because I'm a fucking idiot. Like, I'm capable of giving good advice, but I don't follow advice that people give me. Because, again, I'm kind of lazy, and nothing clicks in my head to motivate me to do better for myself. And, yeah, but I'm not stupid. I'm not, like, stupidly retarded or anything. I've learned things on the internet over the years. Like, I'm always on the internet, so I've learned a lot of little things. It's just not really things that are useful to know. So, yeah. I'm grateful for all the friends I've made through Muckle Space and Facebook and other sites or whatever. This year, I made a friend on Plenty of Fish, a really nice lady that I've been getting to know, and we've become good friends, messaging each other often. And, you know, I still chat with my friend Brittany all the time. Me and her video chat, so it's cool to have someone that I can comfortably, you know, talk to. And I have other friends that I message pretty often, but you know, they're all kind of like far. And I wish I had some people closer. So I think if I'm able, like once I'm able to get a job, hopefully I'll be able to get along with the people there and make some friends. But yeah, I don't even know what I'm getting at anymore. It's like I'm just talking and talking and talking. I'm just very disappointed that I didn't get to live the life that you're supposed to have growing up. Like, some people might think it sounds cool to like sit back and just play video games and shit all the time. But once you grow into your teen years and adulthood, and you start to notice that the video games, they're not filling that void or whatever anymore. And you don't know how to... It's like, at this point, you need more. You need human contact. That's what we're meant for. We're meant to be with each other. We're meant to have friends. We're meant to have mates. But I didn't have that, and I didn't know how to go out and get it. And I still don't. Like, I know what I need to do. I need to go out and stop being a bitch and try to have a decent life. But I can't get over, like, the shit in my head that's holding me back. Fucking social anxiety or depression and all this shit. Like, it's harder. Like, if you don't deal with what I deal with, then you probably just have no real understanding of how bad it actually is. But anyway, yeah, if you know of anyone who isn't treating their children the way they should, they're not getting their children educated, and please do something about it. Just be a decent human being. Talk to a person. Find out why they're not putting their kid in school. If you think their reasons are stupid, if you don't think they're homeschooling the kid, then please make a call and report them. Because it's fucked up that I had to grow up like this. And it really pisses me off that, you know, some people, you know, people in my family don't seem to understand how fucked up that is. My brother is making me move out in June because he has a girlfriend, and he wants to move her and her daughters in with him. So I have to go. My family didn't do shit to teach me and make sure that I grew up to have the skills that I need to survive in this world. And I mean, they've done a lot for me. I mean, my brother's done a whole lot for me, letting me stay at his house, and he's done so much for me. And my other family members have too, and they love me, and I love them. But I just can't get past the fact that, like, people just didn't really seem to care about me having a future, having a good future. Like, how, imagine that you have a kid and you keep them out of school and you have no plans of educating them. Like, what do you expect that kid to do when they get older? You expect them to automatically just know how to do everything when they become an adult? It's not how it works. I know there's people out there who had to deal with abuse and neglect, and they overcame it, and they were able to find their success in life, but I need help. You know, I needed help, and I still need help, and I didn't get that help, and I still don't get that help. I don't get people wanting to take the time to teach me things or help me advance in life, but I don't know. I just hope that I'll be able to find something, a job, a decent job, and go from there and hopefully start building a better life for myself. But I'm still kind of hunted by all the things that I had to miss out on just because someone made a stupid decision when I was a little kid. A stupid decision to keep me out of school. But yeah, I love my mom. I love my family. I love all my friends. I hope people do better, and I hope I end up having a decent life going forward, and my friends and my family. I hope we all have good lives. I love you all. And yeah, that's it. I think there's other things I wanted to mention in this video, but I think this is good enough for right now. So yeah, if anyone actually watched all of this, then wow, thank you. Or even to the people who probably just watched the first 5 minutes, I mean, still, thanks to them. I don't know, I just hope people do better. I wish I had a normal life growing up and went to school, but I didn't. And now I have to try and figure out how to have a better life going forward. So let's see how it goes.